On our long weekend in Boston, we made a special trip to the JFK Presidential Library and Museum with our little history buff in tow. Was this out-of-the-way trip worth it? Let's find out. The John F. Kennedy Presidential Library and Museum is located quite a distance from the center of Boston, and it will take some planning to get there. For our visit, we took an Uber from our hotel, the Mandarin Oriental in Boston's Back Bay, to Columbia Point. The ride did take approximately 30 minutes. The museum is open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. except major holidays. Admission for adults is $18 and children 12 and under are free. Be sure to check their website as discounts are available for seniors, students, military, and other groups. Your tickets can be purchased in advance on the museum's website or on-site once you arrive. Just know that the final entry is at 3:30 to allow time to view the exhibits before the museum closes at 5. The library is located on 10 acres that in part was chosen for its position on the water and its view of Boston. In fact, following the footsteps of previous presidents, President Kennedy, prior to his death, decided that he would construct a presidential library and chose a site next to Harvard University to be his library as the place where his presidential records would be kept and where he would keep an office after leaving public life. However, this is not the site where the library now sits. Instead, a new location was chosen next to the Harbor campus of University of Massachusetts, Boston at Columbia Point in Dorchester. The building we see here was designed by I.M. Pye and dedicated on October 20th, 1979. Once you enter the museum, you'll be directed to the pre-show area to begin your journey through the exhibits, but not before catching a glimpse of the Contemplation Pavilion. More on that later. The layout of the museum is very intentional and meant to guide you through the life of President Kennedy from his formative years through his last days. Your journey will begin with a short film on the early moments of President Kennedy's life, entitled Young Jack. Once the short film ends, you'll find yourself transported back in time to the 1960 presidential election. Here you'll find a recreation of the campaign office and many of the campaign buttons, pens, posters, flyers, hats, and even the dresses worn during the campaign.
So this room is supposed to replicate the night that the election was held and what it looked like in the way of the final results and what it would have looked like as the different states came in and tallied the different precincts.
Next, you'll find yourself transported to Inauguration Day. There are chairs for you to sit and watch the full speech as it's played on a large screen.
And will to the best of your ability. Return to the best and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And stand. Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And on display, you'll find a copy of his inaugural speech with changes that he made. It is said that he worked on the speech until the very last moment, even changing what you see here in real time as he delivered his speech.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
The next area of the exhibit takes you to moments where President Kennedy met the press. Did you know that President Kennedy was the first president to hold live press conferences? That's right. He held a press conference on average every 16 days. In fact, President Kennedy was awarded an Emmy for participating in the first ever live presidential debate. From the press room, you move on to his founding of the Peace Corps. The exhibit also highlights gifts that President Kennedy received from heads of states. In total, the Kennedys received gifts from over 100 heads of state during his time in office. My personal favorite is this replica of Michelangelo's Pieta, presented to the president on his visit to the Vatican in 1963. On display in the ceremonial room, here you'll find items like a table setting used at a state dinner in 1962, as well as the dress designed by Ole Cassini worn by Jackie Kennedy at that very same state dinner. The next area of the museum takes you to space. Here you'll find documents and photos that take you through the space program during President Kennedy's administration. The exhibit touches on Project Mercury, Project Gemini, and Project Apollo. Not only does the museum focus on President Kennedy's time in office, there is space dedicated to his brother, the Attorney General. On this desk, you'll find handwritten notes, glasses, and other personal items that belong to Robert Kennedy. Next, you'll find a replica of the Oval Office. While you will not be able to get close to the replica of the Resolute desk, be sure to take a close look at the chair behind the desk. It is the original chair that President Kennedy used during his time in the White House. In the cases on either side of the exhibit, you'll find that most of the items displayed here were either on the President's desk or on display around the Oval Office. Mrs. Kennedy is also featured in the museum. On display here, you'll find handwritten notes, items that she used in the White House, including clothing, a replica of her wardrobe, as well as mementos and photos from her childhood. The thing that I was most surprised about was to learn that Jackie Kennedy earned an Emmy for her tour of the White House that aired on television in 1962. The main exhibit ends with a somber remembrance of President Kennedy and his state funeral. And leaving the main exhibit, you enter the glass and steel Contemplation Pavilion with its soaring ceilings measuring 115 feet high and sweeping views of the waterfront beyond. Outside of the breathtaking Contemplation Pavilion, you will find President Kennedy's boat, the Victoria. So now we ask the main questions. Was it worth a visit to Dorchester? And who is this experience really for? In our view, a visit to the JFK Presidential Library and Museum is for those who enjoy presidential history or have an interest in the Kennedy era. Must either of these things be true for you to enjoy the museum? Well, no, but you should at least have a passing interest in American history to get the most out of the experience. And was it worth the trip out to Dorchester? For our little group, yes. Our little guy loves presidential history, and we enjoy history in general. When deciding if this experience is for you, you should know that it took us approximately 2 hours to take in the exhibits. We were able to take our time and explore the main exhibits, view some of the smaller exhibits, visit the gift shop, and spend time on the waterfront at the back of the museum without feeling rushed. Have you ever visited the JFK Presidential Library? What was your experience like, and did you think it was worth it? Let us know in the comments below. The JFK Presidential Library and Museum was just one of our adventures in Boston. Be sure to check out our tour of Fenway Park. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you know when the next adventure begins. And no matter where your next adventures take you, we hope that you enjoy the journey. Bye now.